I do owe you guys a little bit of an apology because buying the M5 was supposed to be something that I was going to film. I was going to make a full video about it, but unfortunately it happened so fast and happened just out of the blue. Wasn't expecting it. I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't thinking I was going to buy one until sometime in the fall, and this happened way back at the beginning of the summer. So I was going to tell you guys kind of what happened, how it all worked out, and just kind of fill you guys in on exactly what happened of how I ended up with the M5 that I've got. So this all happened on June 6th. I'm watching the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, and right when Max Verstappen's tire blew, when he was winning the race and had like 2 laps left, I was furious. And so while they red flagged the race to clean everything up and talk about all the, what they're going to do, I hopped on the Car Gurus and I was looking through M5s that were available for sale because I did that all the time. I've got the 3 saved on the top of my bookmark bar and would click through Cars.com, Auto Trader, and Car Gurus all the time. I checked it the day before on Saturday, and I didn't see any M5s that I really wanted to buy. There was like 2 or 3 across the United States, nothing really great that I would actually pay money for. And I check it in the middle of the race, and boom, there's an M5 there, listed for $26,000. And I'm like, okay, let me click on it. Well, it's 18 miles away from where I'm sitting in Charlotte at my brother's house. So that was crazy. And I'm like, okay, we've got an M5 here, but there's no pictures, just a generic picture. It's the first day it's been posted because I know it wasn't posted yesterday because I just looked. So I'm going through and looking at the car, and it says it's got a manual, but a lot of idiots will list a 7-speed sequential and put it manual. I know it's not an automatic transmission, it's a sequential, it's an automated manual, but when you're on Car Gurus or something like that, listed as an automatic, because that's not what I'm looking for. If I put manual in, I am looking for a manual car, and you know that. So I'm looking through and I get the VIN. So I put the VIN into a VIN decoder to make sure if I'm looking for that 2MA option, which means it is a real manual. And it popped up and it was. So I'm like, okay, I've got no pictures, but I know it's a manual. It's got 75,000 miles on it and it is $26,000. Something's not right. Like, there's no way. So I go through, it's 18 miles away. I call the dealership, they're closed on Sundays. I was like, maybe someone will be there. So I drove up there after the race was over, and of course Lewis Hamilton's brakes overheated or whatever he did, and he slid off, and Checo ended up winning a race. So that was exciting. So it was an exciting morning for me. So I called my wife, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go look at this car. I wanna make sure you're on board. She's like, yeah, we're good. So I go up, look at it. It's not out on the lot, I can't see it. It's inside the shop because they just got it and they're still going over it. Nobody was there. So I call first thing when they opened the next morning. So they opened at 8 because of COVID. It got pushed back to 9. So I called them at 8 a.m. I called them at 9 a.m. I happened to have that day off from clinic for some reason. I don't remember why. So I went up and looked at it, test drove it. I didn't even remember to put it in M mode when I'm driving it, but the car looked great. The girl I was supposed to meet there to actually look at the car was like 10 minutes late because she'd gone out to lunch or something. So I'm walking around the car, I'm looking at it. All the paintwork looks really good. There's a few chips and dings and stuff, but nothing really out of the ordinary. The tires are nice Continentals. It had the black sapphire paint on the outside, black perforated leather on the inside with the cooling seats, which is not really what I wanted, but I was like, I can swap seats out, it's not a big deal. I fell in love with the seats. Had a nice wood interior. Everything on it looked great. I couldn't find anything wrong with it. I scanned codes, there's nothing wrong with it. I had a guy down the street check it out. I was trying to find a more specific BMW dealership and I couldn't find one because the BMW dealership right down the street said they didn't do PPIs anymore. Like, what is up with that? The like 2 or 3 BMW shops that were relatively close were like super slammed and were going to be like 2 weeks before they could look at the car. Apparently like 7 or 8 people called about the car after I did, but they gave me first dibs because I was the first one to talk to them. So finally I was like, all right, I'm gonna have this regular dude just throw it up on the lift, look for rust and really any basic stuff. There's nothing we could do about the rod bearings anyway, so I wasn't going to worry about those. I was just going to tackle it later. I was doing the exact opposite of what you're supposed to do. I was not being focused. I wasn't being emotionless. I was falling in love with the car and I wanted it and it was there and I could touch it and feel it and afford it and I needed it, and I ended up buying the car. I got it for $25,500. I got $500 off. It's still a screaming deal on a manual E60 M5 with 75,000 miles on it. I was fully prepared to get one over 100,000 miles. I'd already had the rod bearings replaced. I was fully prepared to pay a little bit more or less than that, just kind of depending on condition. you know, it was perfect. All of the leather inside was nice. There was nothing to complain about on this car. So I was really kind of mind blown, and all of this just came up out of nowhere. So I'm sorry I didn't film anything. You know, I didn't have a GoPro charged so I could go have one thrown up in the corner while I was test driving it. There's just no preparation. So I literally went, looked at the car. Within less than a week, it was sitting in the driveway at my brother's house. I'm sorry I didn't film anything. I will be doing a video, of course, on my first impressions and mod plans and all of the modifications we're gonna do. Background on the car, I got a huge stack like this thick of information on the car. Everything had been done, except for the rod bearing. Rod bearings had not been replaced, it's still a little early. But anything that needed doing was done at the BMW dealership. I had all of these records, like the battery was just replaced, the oil was just replaced, the brake fluid was just replaced. Everything was in really good shape on the car. I feel like I got a really good deal. As it turns out, the car actually used to belong to a former amateur racer, someone kind of similar to me, but he was, I think, in his mid-60s, and he was like the vice president of a tech firm or something like that, lived in like a $2.5 million house on Lake Norman outside Charlotte. You know, he did amateur racing in his spare time. You know, it sounds like someone who would have really taken care of the car. Unfortunately, he had passed away, and that's why they were selling it. It was not from COVID. But yeah, he had passed away, surrounded by his family. You know, it's a nice situation as best as it could be. But I am definitely going to take good care of his car. I'm sure that it was a big deal for him because he bought it as the second owner. It was a 2-year lease for the first owner, actually out of the dealership right by my parents' house where my first BMW came from, so that's kind of crazy. And then it was sold out of the BMW dealership in North Carolina, but did my wife's X5M's pre-purchase inspection, so again, kind of crazy, small world there. And he was the second owner. He bought it for like $60,000 as the second owner, and then I am now the third owner of the car. So 3-owner car, my wife's car was we're the fourth owners, so pretty good there. We have really good service histories from both, so I'm really happy with our little M fleet that we've got going here. And when we move into our house, it's a 2-car garage attached and then the 2-car shop detached. So we will have over 1,000 horsepower of BMW M car in the garage. Kind of cool. You know, it's a nice little duo there. I'll throw up a picture at the end of this video of our cars sitting next to each other the first time I got that up in the mountains because we met in the middle while I was still in school. So I'm definitely excited, and of course, you know, you guys will get full rundown on the car coming up soon. So of course, if you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to drop those below. Hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys next week.